Alofa lover and warm Pacific greetings. Welcome to the Pacific. My name is Talia Olatia. I come from the Samoan villages of Leova'a, Puapua, Satupaitea and Satalo Ifale Alili. From the many villages and islands across our Great Blue Moana, the Pacific will keep you connected to our region. Our trusted reporters and camera people in country have been working really hard to help tell the stories of our Pacific, our culture, our people, our resilience, our Pacific way. And with the growing interest in the region, it's important to listen to Pacific voices. So let's get into it. On the show, Fiji's Prime Minister reacts to Chinese spy allegations in our exclusive interview.
It's almost a slap in the face.
Farmers prepare for even more chaotic weather with the forecasted return of El Nino. And Fijian school kids rub shoulders with their rugby idols. First though, let's bring in Johnson Rayella to find out what's got people talking around the region.
Kia ora, Anna. Well, shots were fired last month when the President of the Federated States of Micronesia, David Panuelu, dropped a bombshell letter alleging Chinese political warfare, bribery, and he even suggested a switch of diplomatic ties from China to Taiwan. But now the FSM Congress has pretty much said, we're sticking with China. They've passed the resolution asking the President to make no changes to diplomatic relations while he's still in office. And tributes have been flowing in from Papua New Guineans all over the world following the death of former Prime Minister Surabi Namaliu. This Facebook post from PNG was flooded with comments.
You served your people well with pride and dignity.
A great role model leader, not only in PNG but in the Pacific and the world. An outstanding statesman.
Surabi served as Prime Minister between 1988 and 1992. There's also been lots of reaction to the news that in just a few months, the International Seabed Authority will start accepting applications from companies who want to mine the deepest parts of the Pacific Ocean. Some countries, like the Cooks, are behind the seabed mining because, well, it brings in the money. But others, like the President of Palau, are concerned. He wants to handbrake the idea until more research is done.
This is an area that I think none of us really totally understand.
Look, ditto. I really don't understand it either. There was also a touch of Pacific flavour in the final of the Women's NCAA Basketball Championships in the USA this week. Cook Islander Lastia Poa scored the sick three-pointer for champs LSU in the final.
Total. Knocks down the
Now look, the NCAA Championships is a massive deal. It's the highest level of college basketball in the US, and more people watch it actually than the WNBA. So well done last year.
Got your back.
And perhaps the biggest news of the week, one of our favourite Disney princesses is making a comeback as a live-action remake.
Moana! That's right. We are so excited and happy to announce that a live-action reimagining of Moana is in the works.
Now look, the response from the Pacific community is that we're largely all for it.
Yes, bring back Moana. Oh my God, I think I just died and went to heaven.
That's tad dramatic, but I can feel the excitement. On TikTok and Twitter, there's a big push to make sure that Disney do the casting right.
Many people have said to me before, Ainsley, that's just not possible. I don't think we have the talent. Maybe there's just not enough Pacifica people to do this. And I am happy to say to those people that you are wrong. And I'm happy to say to those people that we do have the talent.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Hold up, Johns. Are you trying to audition right now?
Hell yeah, I am. Look, Disney, you're welcome to call me anytime.
Okay, let me put it on the record. I'm also available to play Hey Hey the Rooster, the real star of that movie.
Look, take us both. But hey, Tali, I'll let you get back to it and I'll be back later on in the show with some rugby yarns. Ka kite.
Me Taki Maui or Johns. Okay, let's change gears now because there were scenes of joy across Fijian newsrooms as the Parliament repealed a controversial media law. The Act, which was first brought in by the Bainimarama government in 2010, saw journalists and even the public risk fines or jail sentences if they didn't cover a political issue correctly. Now, the repealing of the Act is being seen as a major win for press freedom in Fiji. Now, coming up, we have an exclusive interview with the Fijian Prime Minister, which has truly eluded the ABC for more than a decade, so stay around for that. But before we bring you that, let's talk to our Fiji reporter, Lithe Mavono, about how life is changing as a journalist in Fiji. Well, Lithe, just how did this act limit freedom of expression in Fiji?
Talia, it's been a very emotional day all across Fiji, not just in the newsrooms of particularly the Fiji Times and Fiji Television and all of the news organizations who have tried to be independent in their reporting of Fijian news and Fijian developments over the last 16 years. So for those people who are paying attention to the Fijian media landscape and for those who have opinions, whether they be personal or professional, about the developments that happen around Fiji, this is freedom at last for all of them. It means for me that I can do my work without any fear of repercussion, Talia.
Absolutely, and we need you to do your work, Lithe. So what do we know about the new media law that will replace it?
Talia, I spoke with the Deputy Prime Minister, Mano Kamkamida, who also has oversight on communications and information in Fiji. And his words to me is, this is a full repeal, meaning there is no replacement legislation in the works, or at least no bill being tabled soon that will look at restricting the way the media works.
Yeah, and without that act, Lithe, it means now access to the government. How important is that in being able to hold these ministers to account?
Talia, it was just simply impossible in the past. It was absolutely impossible. I would never have been able to get this sort of opportunity, or at least to demand it on the basis of a free press and insist on an audience with the Prime Minister to ask him really important questions about the policies and the positions of this government on the topical issues that happen not just in Fiji, but around the Pacific. So this is a very surreal moment for me and for others like me working in this space, because now we can knock on the doors of our leaders and get them to talk to us.
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it there. Lithe Vinaka Vakalevu.
Vinaka.
And being able to hold the government to account is exactly what Lithe Mavono was able to do during this exclusive interview with Fiji's Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka, where the PM confirmed he is investigating claims of Chinese spies in Fiji.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much for speaking to the Pacific.
Okay.
What do you think are the key issues facing our Pacific region right now?
Right now, survival. And that when you talk about survival, it's the survival of the landmass that we live on, our islands. When we consider climate change and the rising sea levels, you're talking about the disappearance of our very livelihood in the Pacific. And a lot of emphasis should go to that. And the sad thing about it is that we contribute the least in terms of the greenhouse gas emitted by the world, and we have so little to contribute in the degradation of the universe, but we suffer the most from the effects.
Just moving on to the Pacific and the topic of geopolitical movements. Micronesia's president, Panuelo, has accused China of political warfare. Does that accusation concern you?
For us, it is a concern, particularly when part of the claim was that some of the activities that he had detected and reported were supposed to have taken place in Fiji. We are responsible for everyone who comes into Fiji, and we should be looking after their interests until they leave. So for someone to feel threatened by another power while in the dominion of Fiji is almost a slap in the face. So we need to be we need to be sure that that actually happened, and if it did happen, how do we address it?
Prime Minister, what do you think China's role in the Pacific region should be?
I think they should continue to play the role of a major developed country and a development partner for the territories in the Pacific, and not use, and I do not think they are intensely using the Pacific as an area of power play.
Do you think they are a threat?
A threat is when a power uses its military capabilities to further its policies, strategic interest in the area targeted. A presence is different from a threat. So we have to, in our strategic calculations, work out, are they just being present and being partner in our development, or are they a threat? A threat to what? To our sovereignty? A threat to our collective agreement, to a collective and regional pact as an area of peace? It's now an area of peace, but in the First and Second World War, the Pacific was one of the main centers of conflict. So we cannot really forget that. We cannot afford to forget that, and we should continue to try and promote the Pacific as a region of peace.
Prime Minister, you recently met with Australian Prime Minister Albanese, after which you announced what sounded like a backing of Australia's push to acquire nuclear-powered submarines under the AUKUS deal. And other nations in the Pacific region have raised concerns about the possible environmental impact of these submarines, and that they could also drive or increase militarization in the Pacific. Why do you not share these concerns?
I do not, because this is a sovereign decision by Australia. For us to have a strong friend is not a bad thing. And Australia is developing its own capabilities. In our case, if my friend develops their own capability, why should I be worried about what they may do about it, unless we're worried about aggressive or some invasive activities they might be looking at in the future. But I believe, and I am sure, the building of the submarine does not break any of the agreements made in the non-proliferation and the Rarotonga agreements. At one stage, I was not happy with the way Australia was conducting its affairs in the Pacific, and I spoke out very strongly against them then. But we cannot change history. We are here. We are now part of the Pacific community. And we should continue to consider what is of most important for us, that is our collective development, our collective security, and also our collective protection from outside interference. And that's the way I feel Australia is conducting its affairs, and I have no reason to doubt the sincerity of their making themselves stronger, to be a stronger friend in the area.
Back home to domestic issues. With regards to the previous government, there are some concerns that maybe your government is investing more resources than is necessary to go after the former Fiji First government, particularly Frank Bainimarama. What do you say to these concerns?
There has been no additional effort put into the agencies that are responsible for maintaining law and order and justice. The same forces that were there, they're still there, and they're still doing what they normally do. No extra effort.
So one of the promises or one of the expectations that your voters and others have of your government is a more accurate information as to the state of the country's finances. What is the situation with our economy?
Our economy is slogging on. I use the word slogging on objectively, because we are really struggling. And we have a budget coming up in about 3 months' time. And before that, we will have an economic summit. And hopefully we can get some real experts, outside experts. We have our own in Fiji, but we'd like to, we're no longer a national economy concerned party. Our national economy affects other economies, and other economies affect us. And those are the things we really should be talking about. And there's a lot of good in the country. There's a lot of good in the people in the country. We are very energetic and we are very productive. and innovative. What we need to do is find what we need to move into, and you galvanize the people into action into those areas.
Valuable Prime Minister, and thank you for spending the time on the Pacific.
My pleasure.
Now, I don't need to tell you that the climate is changing in our region. And for some farmers who are just getting over a prolonged drought, there's even more bad news with a forecasted El Nino later this year. Evan Wasuka is going to take you to Vanuatu and Papua New Guinea, where farmers are working really hard to secure food supplies.
Before lo time lo bubu, I'm also looking more sem come up lo rain se come lo September come up lo 5 months, sem 5. But now, me plan look lo meeting him time lo bubu talk lo that, but now yeah I'm when I'm a change.
Farmers here in the hills outside of Lae say they used to know when it was best to plant their crops, but not anymore.
Once we go out and you see farmers and you talk to them, they are saying that weather is unpredictable.
Maria Linneby is the president of PNG Women in Agriculture. A farmer herself, she now helps others build resilience and modernize their planting. While it may look green here now, a prolonged drought has only just broken with the arrival of much needed rain. But the effects are still being felt.
We had about 12 months of drought. This area used to be the banana producing location in Lae. Every evening you would see truckloads, about 3 or 4 of them filled with bananas. Today, for the last how many months, we have not seen one single truck.
Isla time mosem mi plaksi bagrap mi planoga kumu so em affecte mi plan mosem kind of sem effect mi plakisime mi plakasot lo kai wara to dry go inside noga wara lo drink.
And some were left without any food at all.
We have people who are landless. They've been coming in and they're stealing all our. It is because if there's a drought, they're hungry, so they come in and steal at night. So we've lost most of our planting materials as well. So that's how bad it is.
Food supply in PNG is particularly vulnerable to climatic events. 85% of people in this country are involved in agriculture. And now the threat of more dry weather is looming. Scientists predict an El Nino system, a cyclical weather event that occurs over the Pacific and surrounding countries, is likely to develop later this year. That means less rain for PNG.
The drought's coming, and what do we do? What do we do with the drought coming up?
Mi plano maniok namo wetem banana, wetem kumala, small cucumber, pe cyclonia ikamia is polum kutol karanya everyone.
In Vanuatu, it was cyclones, not drought, that has left farmers vulnerable. 2 cyclones hit the country last month, causing widespread damage and destruction of food crops.
80% of the people that live in communities rely on root crop, agricultural people. So root crops in terms of cassava, kumala, and other root crops have been badly damaged, devastated.
Minokatinap kakai, now you stop. Mulai pesa mat time to masla house, you know got something kakai, mulai no kat kitchen to emitamets.
If an El Nino develops as predicted, drier weather could delay recovery efforts and even cause food shortages.
If we have an El Nino, it will negatively impact cultivation of or any replanting program that the ministry will be carrying out.
And if no rain, that means a lot of farmers who live in the rural areas and depend a lot of rainwater, they will have to decide between themselves and who uses the water.
The impacts will be felt across the region. Drier weather can be expected for much of the Pacific, but some areas like Kiribati and Tuvalu historically receive higher rainfall during El Nino. It can also cause cyclone seasons to last longer.
Global warming will increase the frequency and intensity of El Nino as well as La Nina. We need a proper water supply system in place, good rainwater harvesting system, as well as we need to promote drought resilient crops.
William is a good example of a resilient crop because it will be under the ground. When the cyclone comes, remove all the vines, but it's still there. And then it will still grow, it will still supply food.
We lost everything in the drought. So with that, we had to bring seeds from the highlands, and that is where we got all the tubers.
Back in Arab, Miss Linnaby and her team are hard at work preparing for the future. But she says the weather patterns she and her ancestors have relied on for generations are changing.
It's all in chaotic conditions now because it's unpredictable. If there's another El Nino, we need to reserve. They have to put money into research. And allow farmers to know how to preserve their seeds and all that, because otherwise it's chaotic.
Okay, let's get Johnson Rayella back to talk Super Rugby, because the Melbourne Rebels were in Suva on the weekend to take on the Fijian Ndrua, but the Ndrua proved again to be too strong at home, rolling the Rebels 38-28. Ouch. Johns, the home crowd obviously were giving the Fijians an advantage.
Yeah, that's right, Talia, but some Fijian Ndrua rugby fans weren't happy that the team left the field after the match for this photo op with the Prime Minister. This person commented,
"We paid afar to travel, brave the hot sun, empty our lungs for the team. The kids waited for their heroes. These are moments the kids and the debutant families won't get again."
But Mr. Rambuka did issue this apology.
I apologise to the players and management. They should have been given time to go and thank the fans. And we intruded into that period.
Look, judging by these stunning photos, many fans still got to meet their rugby faves. And so did we. We caught up with some of the Fijians playing with the Rebels before they flew to Suva, and we followed them to Fiji as they paid a visit to some very special fans. Marist Brothers High School in Suva is renowned for producing some of Fiji's finest rugby talent. And while the team was in Fiji, Melbourne Rebels players paid a visit, but it was clear who the fan favourite was.
Favorite player is Mr. Angelo Smith, because he's a former student here of Marist Brothers High School, and he also lives in Rewa, close to Rewa.
My favourite player is Angelo Smith, playing for Melbourne Rebels. As a Marist Brothers student, I look up to one of our old boys who's representing Melbourne Rebels, and his position is playing as a simple center.
Nadang Angelo Smith ang ngani nananu te lewu wasu lomati kambare lau.
The 25-year-old Fijian-born lock has thrived in his first full year in Super Rugby, a life he admits is very different to the one he had in Fiji.
Getting the call to be offered a contract here at Rebels, I was over the moon. I was happy as that dream come true. Yeah, heaps of struggles. Back at home, doing 12-hour shift security jobs, to selling coconut juice on the side of the street to help the family. Now to be blessed, to by getting paid to play, blessed to send some money back home to help my family.
A powerhouse forward, Angelo honed his rugby skills here at Marist Brothers as a student.
The brotherhood that we share there is almost the same as what we share here at Rebels. So yeah, going through that Marist Brothers system really helped me to be the person I am today, on the field and off the field. When I was in Marist Brothers, when the Crusaders came down, we had old boys like Manasa Mataele that came down, and from there we just all like, yeah, I want to be like him one day. Then we had William Kikau come one day, and I was like, yeah, I made up my mind, I want to play rugby.
Angelo isn't the only Rebels player with links to Fiji. Before a call-up to the rebels, David Feliuai served a 2-year church mission in Fiji before ending up in Central Europe.
The opportunity came to play in Romania, and I went there for about 2.5 years. Just went over there, experienced life, played some footy, and then I came back due to COVID and stuff like that.
Yes! Well deserved!
David and Angelo have been getting more and more game time for the rebels.
Being able to get some game time has been awesome for me as a player in regards to my growth at this level, because it's still pretty new to me. The pace of the game, the physicality, the structure.
Being able to play rugby for my family, just happy that I'm just doing my best on the field to keep my parents proud and my grandmother proud, and also for the boys back at home, or like one of us to come overseas and play rugby. Like if one can do it, all of us can do it.
Although not selected for the Suva trip, Fijian and Torres Strait Islander Moses Sorovi is in his 2nd year with the Rebels after 6 seasons at the Queensland Reds.
It's been challenging, but it's good for me as a person to grow. Like now, at the Rebels, you have to try and be more of a professional, just be on top of everything.
He doesn't need to look far for inspiration. His father, Mosese Sr., was a former Australian and Oriental Pan-Pacific boxing cruiserweight champion.
I think only Fijians knew the name, so once they meet me, they ask me, "Oh, is your dad Fijian? The Fijian boxer?" I was like, "Yeah, that's my dad."
My advice to young Pacifica players would be to believe in themselves. That's something that I kind of doubted sometimes. That's part of the reason why I went to Romania, because I honestly thought I couldn't make it here.
You got to really take that time management really serious. You got to turn up half an hour early. No matter if you start at 8 o'clock, you show up at 7:30.
My advice to the brothers coming up is everything is possible. Just put your mind to it, put your heart to it, work hard, and the saying back at home, taka 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 masulaka and ayadoba. Just keep working hard, keep praying, and everything is possible.
And some really good advice there for all ages. I know I'll be taking it. And that is the Pacific for this week. Next week, we're going to take you to Ngunnawal country in Canberra, where Pacific leaders will say to hell with drowning. I'm Talia Olatea. Whawhatai le whaa, whawhonga mai, tō whāsoi fua.